Rain or shine, snow or fog, there are a few things you can count on more than the cardiac cues on the hardwood, and today was no different. Coming off a shellacking against Illinois, Syracuse men's basketball faced a 6-1 Notre Dame squad undefeated on their home court until today. The Orange win a nail-biter on the road against the Fighting Irish 62-61, a gotta-have-it win to bring the turbulent 'Cuse team back to 500, and we'll break it all down. Orange Press Pass starts right now. Welcome inside the CitrusTV studios for another edition of Orange Press Pass. I'm Leo Silverman, joined by my two dashing analysts, Philip Galati and Ryan Bridges, breaking down a close victory at Notre Dame here. Now, guys, I know the only thing I'm still thinking about is how hard my heart was beating at the chest at the end of this one. Philip, give me your first thoughts on this huge win for Syracuse.
Well, you mentioned it, cardiac cues. Really, you can't go wrong with this team. But really, this was Notre Dame's game to lose. I mean, there were a lot of shots toward the end where Notre Dame just wasn't finding the buckets. In the beginning, we saw a lot of those corner threes that were dropping for the Fighting Irish. And then toward the end, they kind of shot themselves in the foot over and over again. So yes, 'Cuse got the win, but it was a lot closer and a lot more of Notre Dame dropping the ball rather than Syracuse coming out on top.
Well, you mentioned a lot of the missed shots for Notre Dame, but the Orange finally had the confidence to go out and win a big game on the road. They were not worried with the records and the 6-1 and being on the road against an ACC opponent. They played their game. They weren't intimidated by the big factors and the big headlights, and that's what led to them pulling out the win in this one.
Well, Ryan, they certainly pulled out the win under the big headlights out in South Bend, Indiana. So let's see how it all went down against Notre Dame here. There's a shot there of Coach Mike Bray. He's 6-13 against Boeheim in his career, looking to get a huge win here. And early on, it would be the Fighting Irish. This is going to be a nice pass from J.J. Starling. Finds Dane Goodwin in the corner. That is nothing but net. Notre Dame race out to an early lead, but here comes the response from the Orange. Jesse Edwards, been quiet in his last couple games with those losses, but a nice pick-and-roll combo. Shot up from JG3 and a slam down from Jesse Edwards as he climbs the ladder. Syracuse would go on the trail a little bit later in this first half, and it would be because of these triples. Dane Goodwin, perfect from the other corner to give Notre Dame a 5-point lead here, but the Orange, they'd keep this thing tight throughout, and it was JG3, 1 for 20, 2 for 25 in his last 3 games, finally hits a much-needed triple in Syracuse late in the first half here, tied at 32, but it's Goodwin again, 3 for 3 in the first half from 3-pointers, and Joe Girard, well, he would have a response once again, a nice shot to end the half, 35-35. This thing is neck and neck down the stretch, and it continues in the second half. It'd be J.J. Starling here. He would pull up from deep. Nice shot, cashes it against that Syracuse 2-3 defense. And, well, we saw a couple triples from Notre Dame in the first half. What was the response? Jesse Edwards gets his own miss, and it's a nice slam from the 7-footer. The Orange still clawing back. They hold a 3-point lead late, but stop me if you've heard this before. An outside shot from Notre Dame, wide open there. Marcus Hammond would score that one, and later on, down 5, it'd be an outside kick for another triple here. The Orange claiming a 2-point advantage, and it would go down to the mark here. Inside look, kick out from Gooden. The 2-pointer is fouled from Joe Girard. Late foul. It was an offensive rebound and that one. 'Cuse down 1, and who do they go to? It's Judah Mintz to the rack, and he scores. The Orange take a lead late, but they need one more defensive stop. Beautiful pressure on the ball. They try to kick it to the corner for Goodman, but he can't find it. It clangs off the iron, and Syracuse steal a win here in South Bend, and it could not have been closer down the stretch, Philip.
I mean, 42 points from Jesse Edwards and JG3 out of the 62 for Syracuse. It speaks to the production they've had, but now the question becomes, as you get closer to that ACC slate, who else is going to step up in terms of scoring for the Orange? But still, got to give them credit for their performance today.
Well, one player that did step up big today was Joe Girard, 20 points and 5 rebounds, a big turnaround from his disaster at Illinois a couple days ago.
Yeah, great response to that disaster, like you mentioned now. But gentlemen, there's no better place to start with this win than Jesse Edwards. The senior center has fouled out of the last 2 Cuse losses, but he stayed on the court tonight. And Philip, to put it simply, he just balled out.
He just balled out. Last year, he was getting 2 points a game. This year, he's getting 12. He leads the ACC in defensive rebounds. He leads the ACC in blocks per game. This guy is nuts. Plain and simple. He's going to be the face of this program going forward. Now the question is, going forward, because he is the face of the program, teams are probably going to start doubling up on him. So how do they respond after that? But still, Jesse Edwards getting the game time, getting the points he's been getting, it's a great sight for Cuse fans.
The putback dunks, the offensive rebounds. He had all 5 of the Cuse's offensive rebounds today. And that's big for a young Orange team that doesn't have a lot of size outside of him. He was the dominant presence inside, and he was a big reason for the win today.
Couldn't have said it better myself there, Ryan. But we talk about the consistency of Jesse Edwards. Switch over to another offensive player for the Syracuse Orange squad. Joe Girard has been the definition of inconsistent this season in his new role, very much to the detriment of this Cuse team. Joe came into this game 3 for 25 from the field in the last 3 contests and nearly led all scorers in this one with an efficient 20 points. Ryan, tell me, how can this team win when Joe Girard is on his game?
Well, this team can win from a multitude of reasons because it allows Judah Mintz to open up and for him to be that #1 scorer. But Joe Girard can absolutely be the #1 scorer on this team. He's in a bit of a slump right now. He's shooting about 32%. Last year he was around 40. So if he can get back into that 37, 38 range, he's going to be the leading scorer on this team, and he's going to be a big factor for the Orange going forward.
The thing that strikes me about Joe Girard is his opportunism. There were a couple times today where some of his looks didn't look very likely, and he still managed to get the shot off and make it. I mean, he hasn't been top 3 in scoring in a single game since he put 31 past Richmond. So it's great to see him back on the hot hand today, but really it's got to be more consistent.
Certainly does have to be more consistent, but a really good first showing. We're just getting started, though, breaking down this huge win for Syracuse against Notre Dame. After the break, these two will take a look at what really went right for the Syracuse offense, and we'll hopefully get to hear from our sideline reporter, Cameron Ezeir. Don't go anywhere. Orange Press Pass is back in a few.
Did you hear about the pony with a sore throat? He was a little horse. Can I tell you a cat joke? Just kidding. Why couldn't the Why was the basketball court all wet? Why? Because the players kept dribbling all over it. Where the cats go on vacation? New York.
Glad to have you back with us as we break down Syracuse men's basketball's 62-60 upset win over the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame. And now we're joined by Cameron Ezeir live from the Joyce Center in South Bend, Indiana. Now, Cam, a lot to take away from this big win, but this was the second game we saw John Bolajac getting serious minutes off the bench. How impactful was he down the stretch for Syracuse in this one? Well, unfortunately, can't really hear Cam. They were having some technical difficulties with him, so hopefully we'll get some news about that soon. But let's move forward and talk about this Syracuse win a little bit more with Philip Galati and Ryan Bridges still beside me here. So despite the win, the Orange struggled mightily on the defensive glass. Notre Dame notched 12 offensive boards in the loss, and Illinois, just a couple of days ago, had a season-high 19 offensive rebounds against Syracuse. It begs the question, Philip, how bad can defensive rebounding get for the Orange this season?
hopefully not much worse than what we're seeing as of late, especially when you have so many big ACC teams coming up later this month. We're less than 3 weeks away from the conference schedule. Syracuse has got to be better on those defensive boards. You mentioned earlier, Jesse Edwards is really the only big man we've seen playing so well, both offensively and defensively. Someone else has got to step up, or teams like UVA, teams like UNC, teams like Duke are going to be drooling seeing those stats.
Well, Jesse Edwards had 14 rebounds today, so it can actually get a lot worse, Leo, when you think about the fact that they're getting beat up on the glass right now, and their 7-foot monster that they have down low is getting a ton of rebounds. He's playing really well, and they're still getting beat up on the glass. They need to have better technique when it comes to boxing out and making sure that more guys can get in and grab the rebounds. Can't just have one guy out there fighting on the glass.
Ryan, you mentioned that Jesse Edwards had 14 today in the win over Notre Dame. In the loss to Illinois, he had 21 boards, and they still are getting dominated on the glass. Certainly a big problem to address going forward. But to switch gears a little bit, there are a few words more synonymous on the Syracuse campus than cardiac cues. The Orange have now played in 2 overtime games and 2 one-point finishes just 6 games into the season. Safe to say cardiac cue season has come a little bit early, huh, Ryan?
It has. But the Orange are getting a little bit lucky, in my opinion. You know, the ball was getting thrown into the middle of this 3-2 zone. The ball's getting kicked back out. There's open three-point shooters for Notre Dame, and they couldn't throw it in the ocean in the second half. So this team is getting very lucky when it comes to these offensive rebounds, and especially with these open threes, and it's something they're going to need to clean up. They've been okay down the stretch, but it could have been a lot worse. Those could all be L's on the right side of your screen there.
It could all be L's. It's 3 L's in a row for this Orange team. You have overtime games. You have late drama. It's because there's so many different moving parts with this team right now. A lot of young guys coming in looking to fill some big shoes from last season. And we're going to talk about a little bit later, there's been a little switch around between the 2-3 and the man marking on defense. So naturally there's moving parts. Just needs a little bit of time to firm everything up. And then Syracuse is probably going to do what we know them so well to do and find their stride in January, February.
Well, Philip, a big piece of firming things up for the Orange involves one guy, and well, he wasn't the guy to put the game away for Syracuse, but Jesse Edwards had another dominating performance in the paint and is our Orange Press Pass player of the game. Edwards notched his 3rd double-double on the young season with 22 points and 14 rebounds, continuing to be the end-all, be-all on the glass for the Orange so far. Congratulations to Jesse, but we're not done breaking down a big win for Syracuse. After the break, Philip and Ryan will pay homage to the World Cup with a brand new game. Orange Press Pass is back in 2 minutes.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dad, they took over my bedroom. Come on, come on. Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. Dad! You saved me. Dad?
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
Welcome back to Orange Press Pass with Philip Galati and Ryan Bridges as my two analysts and now pseudo referees for our new game we're calling Make the Call. To pay homage to the World Cup, I will throw out 3 takes about this Syracuse men's basketball team, and these two will decide how they feel about them with the appropriate card or let play continue. So let's get right into it, guys. To pay homage to the, so we'll start out here with a first take. We're going to talk about the team going forward with Joe Girard, right? He's such a big offensive presence going forward. So the take I'm going to throw out here is, and Philip, we'll start with you. Joe Girard should be the second huge scoring option for Syracuse. What's your ruling?
It's a tough one. I'm going to go with the yellow card on this one. Here's why. Joe Girard is streaky. We know that. This is the first time he's been top 3 in the team in scoring since the Richmond game. That was 4 games ago. The problem is when you get down the stretch with these nail-biters like we saw against the Fighting Irish today, you need someone to rely on. If you've got a streaky player, that's going to be tough if you're going to try and put all your eggs in one basket. You need the underclassmen to step up. Otherwise, relying on Joe as number 2 is a tough go.
Phil, I'm giving this a red card.
Wow.
And the reason why I'm giving it a red card is that Joe Girard can't just be the number 2 scorer on this team. He can be and he will be the number 1 scorer on this team. He's averaging just a half point less than the number 1 scoring option so far this season, and that's Jesse Edwards. So if he comes out of that slump of him shooting 32% and he gets closer back to that 40% like he was shooting last season, he's going to be by far and away the best scorer and the highest scorer on this team.
Wow, well, I heard nothing about Judah Mintz, so I guess Judah Mintz' cold streak doesn't really exist anymore, but some harsh rulings from my refs so far. We're going to switch to the defensive side, though, and Ryan, I'm going to go to you first for this one. Should SU move on from the 2-3 zone?
Well, Philip, I'm going to have to borrow that from you real quick because I'm going to show them a yellow card. Listen, this team, they can break down sometimes in the zone, and I think that I'm showing them to this because I want them to see, you know what, can they... If it breaks down again, then it's time to scrap things up. So I'm giving them a little bit of a warning. I want them to see how they go forward. But for now, we're going to play conservative, and we're going to go with a yellow card. But if it happens again, where the 3-2 zone gets out of whack, they miss open threes, it's going to be tough for them.
All right, I'm going to let you keep that yellow card and the red one for a second because I'm waving play on. This team's going to play advantage. Here's why. We've got a lot of young parts. I mentioned that earlier. Jim Boeheim has been coaching for almost, 50 years now? Yeah. In that time, you're having coaches grow up, learn the game of basketball, and learn how to defend against the zone. So the man had to come in eventually. And they've been trying out a little bit this season to some success. Again, because this team has so many young guns and because they're trying something new, they just need time to figure out how the jigsaw fits all together. I think man is the way to go for the future. Just going to be a rocky road until they smooth things out.
Philip, I'm certainly a fan of your ruling because if there's a lot of things to talk about with this SU men's basketball team so far, but one thing we all can agree on, they have some serious athleticism, and man is really helpful with athleticism. Well, we're going to go to our last ruling here, you two, so we're going to go a lot more big picture for this one. And Philip, I'm trying to figure out how optimistic you are about this team with this one. Syracuse will finish top 6 in the ACC. What is your ruling?
Yeah, I'm going to need that red card real quick. As an actively certified U.S. soccer official, this is a sending off. Look, wow. There's some really good teams in the ACC this year. You've got UVA, you've got Duke, you've got Wake Forest, you've got UNC. We can count out teams like Boston College, FSU, Louisville, but really it's the middle of the pack. You see the difference there. UVA ranked number 3 right now after not having all that great of a season. Duke, UNC, the Blue Bloods, of course, Notre Dame still up there even after the performance today. I don't see a way Syracuse breaks in because of their lack of consistency. We all call them cardiac cues for a reason. I just don't see a path into the top 6 this year.
Well, the good news is, Philip, is that they've been playing up to competition. They've been losing to lesser teams like Bryant, like Colgate, but then they face off against a 6-1 Notre Dame team, and they look like the team we've wanted to see all season. So they play up to their competition, so we're going to let them play on for a bit. No cards on this one. We just got to see what happens going forward.
Well, my big takeaway here is I think I gave a little bit too much power to my analysts, so we're going to take one more quick break here. On the other side, we'll continue to break down what has been the staple win so far for the Syracuse men's basketball team over Notre Dame. Don't go anywhere, folks.
OTN is on all your favorite apps: Apple TV, Fire TV, and Roku. Search Orange Television Network or OTN. OTN has its best shows, short films, and CitrusTV on demand. Family and friends can watch OTN too. Watch the live stream of OTN to catch live CitrusTV news, live from Studio B, and mornings on the Hill. On or off campus, watch OTN anywhere.
Welcome back inside the CitrusTV studios for this edition of Orange Press Pass, breaking down Syracuse men's basketball's big win over Notre Dame 62-61, and I'm joined, of course, by Philip Galati and Ryan Bridges. We've been sitting way too long watching the Syracuse sports atmosphere today on this Saturday evening, so we're going to do a little more standing up, but guys, I want to ask you guys a little more questions. We didn't get to touch too much on the bench in this one, right? So we've been seeing these last two games, John Bolajak has been coming off the bench for some serious minutes, and he's playing at the 4. Ryan, do you think he was a pretty impactful play today, considering he led the team in assists against the Fighting Irish?
Well, he did a good job passing the ball, but he doesn't really bring anything offensively to this team, so I'm a little worried about him out there. He kind of does look nervous, and it's hard for him to, possess the ball, grab rebounds, and score, and that type of thing.
My question to you is, what offensively does he need to bring besides passing? Because in terms of rebounds, we know it's kind of the one-man show with the Flying Dutchman. His passes today were good. He had a couple passes inside the lane to JG3 that were exceptional. So what else would he really need to do for you to see him as more of a viable option off the bench?
I think he needs to catch the ball down low, and he's just got to go up strong with it. He's a big guy. He should be drawing fouls. He should be getting to the line. There's no reason why he can't be a second scoring option down low to take away pressure from Jesse Edwards.
All right, well, I'm going to move on to JG3 specifically. We've talked about him a bunch, obviously, but the thing that strikes me today was his consistency, something we've touched on about lacking in the season so far. Was there something different about his game today that you saw that really made him really drain more of those shots than he usually does?
I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I feel like it's just a confidence thing with JG3. We've known the guy to take the craziest shots. I feel like every time I watch Joe Girard play, every shot that he makes from deep, I'm going, oh, that's a terrible shot, and he makes it. So today he was playing with that confidence, right? You saw him go to those step-back moves. He had some really good pump fakes. In the last couple of games, we've seen him finish games with just 3 shots. His confidence was completely out the window, especially with Jim Boeheim pulling him early. So I really like to see him have that confidence again against the Fighting Irish.
Well, it wasn't great for him today. He was 2 of 10 from 3, I believe. So he's still struggling from the outside. But Jim Boeheim was questioning the other day if he had his confidence. I think he showed today that he does, but it wasn't just his shooting. He was getting on the floor. He was diving for loose balls. He was taking charges. He was getting steals. I think he had 2 steals in this game too. So he's been active on all parts of the court today, and I think that's what Jim Boeheim was asking for, and I think he delivered in that regard today. Another guy who delivered today was Jesse Edwards. Guys, when you were watching that first half, he had 16 and 9 early. When did you guys know this was going to be a big game for Jesse?
Go ahead, Phil. You got this.
Oh, man. I think it was from that first putback very early on. Was it like the 3rd or the 4th minute, maybe?
Yeah.
It was that lazy floater from way downtown, and Jesse, 2 hands on it, threw it down. My question really is, this is a great performance, obviously, and we've seen that trajectory, and we've talked about the stats. The question now is, can he continue that the rest of the season, especially when you've got an Armando Bacot, especially when you've got a P.J. Hall?
Yeah, I think that's a great point to make. And my opinion on Jesse Edwards is he's really taken strides with the skill of his game as well. But I'm still the guy, if he just puts on like 15 more pounds of muscle, this guy's going to be all ACC first team. So we'll have to see how Jesse Edwards plays out the rest of the season. But we are unfortunately wrapping things up here on Orange Press Pass. We'll take one more break. And on the other side, we'll look around the world of sports and see what's going on this Saturday evening. Don't go anywhere, anybody. We've got one more break on the side.
You've messed up your son's haircut.
Mom?
Do you A, try to fix it,
Like it never happened.
B, work with what you got, or C, show solidarity?
Thank you, baby.
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just.
The clock is almost hit midnight here for this edition of OPP following Syracuse men's basketball's 62-61 win at Notre Dame. We've tried our hardest to push the World Cup into this show, and while U.S. disappointed on the field today, Philip, a huge game on the pitch for Syracuse soccer going on right now, and it wrapped up to the joy of yourself.
2-1 over UVM. The Orange are going back to the College Cup. I can't believe it. ACC champions in 2015. They won the chip again this year. It's a much-deserved rerun in Cary, North Carolina. This team is going to be scary. Number 3 in the country, the highest remaining seed in the tournament. I think they can win it all.
It's great to see how the campus of SU has really rallied around this team. This is really like Syracuse's team. They've put all their heart and soul into it. Some disappointing moments in football, in basketball, but soccer has been big for Syracuse.
A lot of championships going around for college football as well, but we're going to take a look here. We're going to move on and look at the ACC standings for men's basketball right here. Not a lot of conference play, Ryan, but some heavy hitters and maybe some surprises at the top of the standings right about now.
Yeah, Syracuse being at the top of the standings is a surprise, and while we don't think it's going to hold, just a 4-4 overall record. The Orange, they got a lot of big teams that they got to play. Virginia, North Carolina, Duke, all are going to be coming to the JMA Dome, so it's going to be a tough schedule going forward, but I like what the Orange did today. I think they can build on it.
I think the two names that really surprised me are the ones above Syracuse, Clemson and Penn. I mean, me personally, I don't know about y'all, I don't really think of them as basketball schools, and they've been playing well. Granted, it's early, but having that early season momentum, getting ready into conference play, it could be scary come March.
Well, they'll have to see Clemson and Pittsburgh down the road, but Syracuse's next match is a little bit less of a formidable opponent. They'll return to the JMA Wireless Dome, and Philip, they'll be taking on the Oakland Golden Grizzlies.
80 points allowed per game, 2-7. This should be a great tune-up for the Orange defense. Still got to remain hot on offense, though, if they want to get the dub.
Don't play down your competition. Keep the momentum from today. They play like they did today against Oakland, they'll win handedly.
Well, we'll have to find out how that game goes future next week here. But we're wrapping things up on Orange Press Pass for Syracuse versus Notre Dame. And guys, we'll move to final thoughts quickly. Philip, what's on your mind?
There's glimpses of greatness with this team. Really, it's about sustaining that greatness through the rest of the game, and more importantly, through the rest of the season. Still got to fine-tune some things. That comes with younger guys coming into college for their first year, and really with a legendary coach like Jim Boeheim, I have a lot of faith in this program.
The Orange can be a very good team this season, but the defense, it needs to tighten up. They allowed way too many open threes today. Like I said, Notre Dame really couldn't throw it in the ocean. If Notre Dame just made one more three, they would have won this game. The defense needs to be better.
Well, we still have a lot of question marks with this Syracuse men's basketball team, but regardless, a big upset win, the first real statement win since they played in the Barclays Center in my mind. And unfortunately, that does bring us to the end of Orange Press Pass here. That's been Philip Galati and Ryan Bridges. I'm Leo Silverman. Syracuse men's basketball, they take down the Fighting Irish in South Bend here. 62-61 is your final score. Special shout out to all the producers behind the scenes, and have a great rest of your evening, Syracuse.